You know that feeling, right? It's late at night, the house is finally quiet, and your brain just goes there, into those huge cosmic spaces where the big questions live, the ones we usually keep tucked away during the day. Well, today, we're not tucking them away. We're going to explore the 10 questions we all ask God. And it often kicks off with this total logic puzzle. I mean, if everything has to have a beginning, then what about the ultimate beginning? We learn from day one that every effect has a cause, so our brains just can't help it. We have to ask, okay, so who created God? And then, boom, it gets personal really fast. You look around at the world, maybe even just at your own life, and the sheer unfairness of it all just hits you right in the gut. Why? Why does God allow so much suffering? And eventually, after all the cosmic questions and all the heartache, it all seems to boil down to this one single, incredibly vulnerable thought, the one we're almost afraid to say out loud. Amidst all the noise, all the doubt, does God love me? If that little whirlwind of questions felt familiar, I want you to know something. You are absolutely not alone. What feels like this isolated personal struggle is actually one of the most shared human journeys there is. These are the 10 big questions that have echoed down through all of history. But here's where it gets really fascinating, because these aren't just theological puzzles to be solved. They're actually deeply, deeply connected to the way our brains are wired. Believe it or not, our biggest doubts are often rooted in totally predictable patterns of human psychology. The key to understanding this is something called a cognitive bias. Now, it sounds like a fancy term, but it's really simple. Think of it as a mental shortcut. Your brain uses them all day, every day, to process a crazy amount of information. And these shortcuts are super efficient, but, and this is a big but, they can also steer our questions about life and faith in very specific, often misleading directions. So let's see how this actually works. Take that massive question, why allow suffering? Well, the hidden driver is often a bias called the just world hypothesis. It's our powerful, deep-seated need to believe that the world is and should be fair. So when it's not, it creates this huge tension our brain needs to resolve. Or what about, does God love me? That one is so often fueled by the negativity bias, which is just our brain's tendency to focus on all our mistakes and flaws, making it incredibly hard to accept unconditional love. Now, the scriptural reframes you see here, they aren't meant to be simple answers. Think of them more as invitations. Invitations to see the whole question from a completely different and honestly much, much bigger perspective. So the thing is, these questions don't just pop up at random. They actually chart a course. They map out a journey that so many people follow, a kind of 5-stage progression that leads from confusion to a much deeper faith. See, it usually starts in the head with that intellectual crisis, the who created God type of stuff. Then it travels down to the heart with a moral crisis over suffering and pain. From there, it becomes about connection, about finding a purpose beyond ourselves. And finally, it leads to what feels like a faith crisis, but is actually about learning what it means to truly trust. So you see, it's not a downward spiral of doubt. It's more like a ladder of growth. And we can zoom out even further. Because behind all 10 of those questions, and behind all 5 of those stages, there are really just 3 core human needs that are driving this entire thing. This is like the master pattern behind it all. First up, our need for meaning. When we ask about creation or existence or the reasons for pain, what we are fundamentally searching for is a story that makes sense. We're looking for a narrative that can bring some order to the chaos and give our lives meaning. Second, and this one's a big one, is the need for love. Every time we ask, does God see me, or can I be forgiven, we are voicing this primal human need to belong, to feel a connection, to know deep in our bones that we truly matter. And third is our need for purpose. This is when the questions start to shift away from just being about me. We start asking about our place in the world, about our calling, about our mission. We're searching for our role to play in a story that's much bigger than ourselves. So, what does this all mean? It means that what feels like a crisis of faith is actually an incredible opportunity. These questions aren't the end of your belief. They are the very engine of it. They literally provide you with a map for your own spiritual growth. I really want this to sink in. Your questions, your doubts, all that late-night wrestling with the universe, it is not a sign that your faith is failing. Not at all. It is the very fuel that is deepening it, pushing you beyond simple answers and toward a profound, resilient trust. This is the spiritual arc. It all starts with curiosity. That's the head. Then, pain often comes in as a catalyst, forcing us to go deeper. This leads us to search for relationship. That's the heart. That connection then blossoms into a sense of purpose and mission, and it all culminates in a resilient, tested faith that is built, not on certainty, but on trust.
So we end right where we began, with a big question. But this time, it's not a question from us to God, but from God to us. And it's a question that doesn't demand an intellectual answer. It's an invitation into a state of awe. It reminds us that maybe, just maybe, the goal isn't to have all the answers, but to learn how to trust the one who asks, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation?"